Okay, there. Okay, yeah, Enrico, go ahead and moderate.
All right. Thank you, Kania, and thank you everyone for coming to today's event brought to you by Premier Seattle on how to get hired and secure your work visa. My name is Enrico, and I'm one of the member of Premier Seattle, and I'm going to be your moderator of today. Yuk kita mulai aja. Kayaknya udah pada nggak sabar kan untuk learn more on the works of working in the States. Firstly, gue mau welcome to our Premier Seattle President, Kania. Hi, Kania.
Hi. Yeah, jadi.
Do you have a few words to welcome the event?
Yes, jadi thank you again everyone for being here, and thank you juga to our speakers Kak Hana dan Kak Zaskia yang udah mempeluangkan waktunya hari ini untuk share experiences kalian dan juga memberi beberapa tips and tricks ke kita. Karena juga personally speaking, aku kan juga sekarang senior kan, jadi udah mulai deg-degan juga nih dengan kayak harus apply kerja, gini-gini, planningnya juga OPT di sana. Gitu. Jadi dengan itu semua aku juga kadang-kadang masih agak buta gitu kan kayak what are the exact steps I should take. So I think this webinar could really be of benefit to me dan juga orang-orang di sini yang lain yang planning untuk kerja di US gitu. Jadi untuk ini aja kita bakal penonton pada nggak apa-apa kan kalau misalnya kita campur-campur English sama kayak apa Indo gini-gini, jadi something informal aja sih. Jadi okay. Thank you semua juga dan I hope you guys find this webinar helpful and thank you from behalf of me and juga Permia Seattle. So enjoy.
All right, thank you banget Kania for the welcoming words. Now, time for the main event. We have two very special guests for this evening that are willing to share their experiences with you guys. We're gonna let the speakers present their part dulu, and then baru kita masuk ke opportunity for Q&A. Nanti di bagian Q&A, you guys bisa raise hand aja ya di application Zoom ya, karena kita nggak ada option buat chat, jadi save your questions ya. And then for our first speaker, we have Mbak atau Kak Zaskia Putri. Kak Zaskia is an attorney licensed to practice both in Washington State and Indonesia. She is an attorney at Herman Law Group, which is a personal injury law firm based in Seattle, Washington. Dulu, Kak Zaskia juga datang ke US sebagai international student law, and today she will share all her past experiences and tips for current future students yang mau sekolah dan kerja di United States. Halo Kak Zaskia, apa kabar?
Hai Enrico, baik. Kamu lagi di Seattle atau di Indonesia?
Lagi di Seattle nih Kak.
Oh, oke. Jadi kita sama ya, Sabtu malam jam 7.
Bener. Gimana nih Kak, dari kemarin sehat-sehat Kak?
Sehat-sehat. Sekarang kita udah phase 2 ya, barusan minggu ini ya phase 2. Jadi udah mulai rame.
Iya Kak. Thank you banget ya Kak for providing your time today to share your insights with our students. And now I'm gonna pass the floor on to you. Silakan ya Kak.
Thank you so much, Enrico. Enrico, I mean, sorry, not Enrico. Yeah. Thank you so much. Halo semuanya, teman-teman yang datang ke webinar ini. Judulnya Get Hired and Secure Your Work Visa. Terima kasih pertama-tama untuk Permias Seattle particularly, dan juga Kania yang aku approach actually untuk kayak bisa bikin webinar ini. Terus aku juga approach Hana karena menurut aku hal-hal yang aku dan Hana tahu sekarang, pengalaman kita bisa banget kita share, jadi teman-teman bisa punya bayangan ke depannya. So, terima kasih untuk kesempatan ini kepada Permias dan kepada Kania. Terus mungkin yang tadi Kania bilang, we're just gonna do this some sort of like chit chat and informal. So feel free, probably like Enrico mentioned earlier, we're gonna put together all the questions to the end of the session, because Hannah will share about her own experience, and I believe it's going to be very useful too. Jadi di save dulu pertanyaannya, but feel free to ask as many questions if you want, and literally anything, and I'll be happy to answer where I can. So mungkin sebelum mulai ke intinya, aku mau touch base sedikit tentang background aku. Jadi sebelum aku itu ada di US sekarang di Seattle, aku S1-nya itu di UI, di FHUI, aku lulus tahun 2013. Mungkin buat teman-teman yang planning untuk masuk LLM, either di UW atau di university lain di US, mungkin teman-teman juga udah tahu kalau LLM itu salah satu syaratnya adalah punya law degree di home country kita, which is in this case Indonesia. Jadi aku dulunya FHUI, sarjana hukum. Abis itu tahun 2013 lulus kerja di corporate law firm 4 tahun. Abis itu tes pradi, abis itu ke US tahun 2017. Tahun 2018 lulus, 2019 lulus Washington State Bar Exam, dan dari 2019 sampai sekarang aku kerja di Herman Law Group sebagai personal injury lawyer. Jadi kerjaan kita itu yang biggest cases yang lagi aku tanganin adalah kecelakaan pesawat. Nah, tapi seperti Lion Air JT610 dan Sriwijaya Airlines yang baru-baru ini kejadian. Tapi sehari-hari kita juga nanganin kecelakaan-kecelakaan mobil dan lain-lain, dan aku punya beberapa klien yang kebetulan international students juga di Washington State. Jadi kalau kalian ada apa-apa, jangan sampai sih kena kecelakaan mobil atau kecelakaan apapun. Tapi kalau ada apa-apa, ada masalah hukum, bisa feel free untuk kontak aku. Nanti kontak information aku ada di akhir slide. Oke, boleh next. So, let's dig in to this get hired and secure your work visa. I am trying to be as real as I can be, because I want to share something that you probably can still find it in Google, but I want to put it together based on my own experience, so you know that, okay, this might be applicable to me, this might not be. So this is something that you can actually do, because I did it and it worked for me. So before departure, menurut aku penting banget. Jadi ada dua, either kalian kesini sebagai master student kayak aku, atau kalian kesini sebagai undergraduate student, either itu freshman atau kalian transfer or whatever. So menurut aku ada dua ada dua path yang bisa kalian ambil kalau kalian kesini sebagai master students atau PhD student. In a way, penting banget menurut aku untuk punya experience di bidang kalian itu sebelum kalian kesini. Contohnya kayak aku, waktu aku sebelum kesini, aku udah kerja di corporate law firm selama 4 tahun. Itu ngebantu banget kita di kegiatan sehari-hari dan ketika kita apply kerja. Jadi mereka udah tahu kalau kita tuh udah pernah kerja sebelumnya. Gitu. Nah, untuk teman-teman yang kesini sebagai freshman atau transfer, whatever, intinya undergrad, menurut aku kalian mesti buka kesempatan, open your eyes, come here with open arms, in the sense that mungkin ya, aku ambil contoh aja. I'm not picking on anything, but this is just for the sake of this conversation. Mungkin yang sekarang lagi tren adalah misalnya startup. Jadi kalian fokus aja gitu, pokoknya gue mau startup aja kerjanya. Or another story is that gue maunya this particular field of job that I want to do. I think it is very advisable to, basically be open about any opportunity. So come here to the US with open arms. Just basically any opportunity that you can find in front of you, grab it. If it doesn't work, if you don't like it, it's okay. But at least, come here with open arms. So that's before departure. Next. And then when in school, bisa next. Sorry. Okay. Nah, while in school, ini khusus buat Mahasiswa UDAP sih, karena aku cuma pernah pengalaman di UDAP. Aku nggak tahu kalau di community college atau di universitas lain. Menurut aku UDAP itu salah satu kampus yang punya international students services yang bagus banget. Very communicative, very supportive, and very integrated. Jadi kayak apa ya, kamu punya masalah apa atau punya pertanyaan apa tuh most likely selalu di-cater sama dia. At least itu pengalaman aku. Jadi selalu stay in touch sama advisor kalian, dan mereka itu sangat supportive sama international students gitu. Mereka mau banget bantu untuk kita dapat kerjaan di sini. Dan setahu aku ISS itu punya assigned advisor ke kalian berdasarkan last name. Nah, jadi itu bukan random person yang ketika kalian nanya tuh orangnya bakal beda-beda terus. So it's very nice for you to stay in touch with that person. Atau in my case, di law school aku juga ada advisor. Di situ advisor itu punya semua informasi tentang internship atau apapun itu, kayak paid, unpaid, atau seminar yang kayak kira-kira bisa bikin kita dapat internship or anything. Nah, kalian juga menurut aku itu advisable banget untuk stay in touch sama mereka. Untuk kalian yang mungkin pernah ngerasain undergrad di Indonesia, kayak aku gitu, at first it was really awkward for me to do that karena di Indonesia it's not something that I did, especially like staying in touch with people from school, like your professor or something. But I changed that mindset. And it really worked because once they know you, they will give all of the information to you firsthand for things that they know. So it's very good. And then stay informed about job opportunities and CPT regulations. Setahu aku adalah ketika aku masih kuliah ya, I think it's still the same. Jadi kita nggak bisa ngelakuin CPT sampai kita itu sekolah one full academic year. Jadi kayak 4 quarter 1 tahun. Nah, untuk undergrad mungkin nggak terlalu bermasalah ya, karena undergrad 4 years anyway kan. However, buat master student, contohnya law school itu nggak sampai 4 quarter, itu cuma 3 quarter, cuma 9 bulan. So I really wanted to do CPT. So because I feel like if you want to get hired here, it is very important for the employer to see that you have local experience, not just local experience, meaning that experience from the US, not just from your home country. Because I feel like if they see that in your resume, they can tell that, okay, this person is at least verified to work. Like this person can work because this person was hired before by somebody else, something like that in the US. So it's very important to have that experience for me and for us in general. And then this is also, I think, what I find very important is to associate more with people with same or similar goals, both Indonesian and non-Indonesian. Meaning that sometimes kayak, because hanging out with other Indonesians is very comfortable. They speak the same language, they know the culture, you don't have to explain yourself. However, you need sometimes to be careful because not all of international students from Indonesia here, they want to stay here. Some of them, they want to go back to Indonesia after they graduate. So probably the way they project themselves here is school, hang out, sometimes internship, but then they don't really focus on like, okay, I have to, literally put myself together and follow through with my plan because I want to stay here. So I think it's very important to associate yourself with the same goal, both Indonesian or non-Indonesian, especially if if they're Indonesian, those Indonesian who also wants to stay here. So you guys can, be force of strength. You know what I mean? So, and then I'm sure it applies to all fields or major, but more so in law. Jadi di law school itu kita punya banyak banget kesempatan networking. Kayak contohnya setiap hari Kamis pertama setiap bulan itu ada yang namanya TGIT. Thank God it's Thursday. Jadi kayak mixer a little bar mixer gitu di kampus, jadi kayak free flow drinks and whatnot, not to just drink yourself until you get tipsy or something, but to talk to people and their potential employers coming to law school. You talk to them, exchange name cards, and then also there is mixer this, seminar this, seminar that, which at the end they have like this networking session where you talk to employers, you talk to people from law firms, from the government, blah blah blah, and then you exchange cards, you get informations, and I think that is very important. I'm not I mean, I don't know, but I think other major should have the same or similar programs like that, and if your major does have a program like that, you should definitely join, you should definitely participate. And that also relates to my previous point untuk nggak cuma associate yourself with Indonesian, karena mungkin teman-teman Indonesia abis itu mau pulang, jadi kayak mungkin kita mikir yaudahlah males lah ikut networking. So don't think that way, karena networking itu penting banget di dunia kerja. And then like I said, get internship, you know, so that you have this local experience in your resume. Next. Nah, terus after school, menurut aku yang paling penting adalah plan. Kenapa? Karena setahu aku di Indonesia, OPT itu kita punya grace period 90 days. Zaman aku ya, I believe the regulation is still the same, but you need to double check. Jadi zaman aku lulus itu tahun 2018, kita punya 90 days grace period dari kita di-issue OPT sampai 90 hari setelah itu untuk kita cari kerja. Kalau kita nggak dapat kerja, kita harus pulang ke home country kita, or I don't know, go back to school, whatever. Because after we the 90 day grace period lapse, then our status, we don't have F1 status anymore if we do not have a job here, and the job could be paid or unpaid. So it doesn't have to be paid. So the best case scenario is to get a paid job. However, if you want to stay here in the US, but you cannot get a paid job within that 90-day grace period, and if you have the funding, I think it's okay to get an unpaid job so that you can still stay here while trying to find the paid job. And then kenapa aku touch base tentang plan? Karena menurut aku penting banget untuk kita apply kerjaan itu dari satu quarter sebelum graduation, or even 2 quarter. Biasanya 1 quarter sih, karena dari situ transkripnya tuh udah kelihatan semua, dan kita udah bisa bilang sama calon employer, I will graduate this, and then I will be able to work more or less this. So it's more clear for the employer. Next. Nah, ini aplikasinya, tadi aku udah jelasin teorinya, ini aplikasinya pada saat aku di US. Jadi aku start itu di UW Law Fall 2017. Seperti yang aku bilang tadi di awal, aku tuh selama kuliah, kerjaannya either di library, belajar ke kelas, dan abis itu ujung-ujungnya networking. For FYI, I didn't get my job from networking per se. However, the networking itself really boosts my confidence to talk to stranger, to talk to people who I mean, at that time I thought, oh my God, they're just beyond my league. I don't even know how they look at me. I'm just a stranger from a far away country. But the more I practice, the more I have that confidence. So it really helped me when I did the actual interview with the actual potential employer. So, and then after that, I graduated from UW Law in winter 2018. And that also relates to what I said earlier. Untuk teman-teman yang programnya itu cuma 9 bulan, 3 quarter, nggak sampai 1 tahun, kan di situ kalian belum bisa CPT ya, at least zaman aku ya, karena belum 1 academic year. Nah, jadi aku extend 1 quarter lagi supaya aku bisa dapat kesempatan CPT. Jadi waktu aku apply kerjaan untuk OPT, aku tuh udah punya pengalaman kerja di sini. Nah, jadi during last quarter itu aku ambil kelas tetap, tapi aku at the same time aku intern sama 2 institution sekaligus. Yang satu sama Superior Court Judge, yang satu lagi sama Court Appointed Mediator. Karena cuma itu doang, satu quarter itu doang kesempatan aku buat internship. Jadi untuk kalian yang undergrad, you have more luxury to do internship. Dan saran aku, untuk undergrad, ambil internship yang ada benang merahnya, ada correlation-nya sama kerjaan yang mau kalian tekunin ke depannya. Kayak misalnya mungkin kalian mau engineering or programming or whatever, cari internship di organisasi yang ada hubungannya sama itu. Jadi itu bisa nge-build resume kalian banget gitu. Nah, abis itu sambil kerja lulus 2008, abis itu bar-exam kan. Abis itu aku dapat kerjaan di March. Abis itu March 2009. Abis itu pass bar exam summer 2009. Abis itu udah H1B seperti itu. Next. Nah, ini mungkin tips-tips buat teman-teman yang work out di aku yang mungkin bisa di-apply juga ke teman-teman ke depannya. Menurut aku penting banget di kita sebagai international student untuk bisa being aggressive and assertive, meaning that kita mesti sampein ke potential employer kita kalau kita butuh work permit dari awal. Itu tuh I really work hard to practice to say that to my potential employer because it's not an easy conversation to have. I mean, getting a job itself is already difficult, especially asking for something else when they don't even know us. So it really takes guts for you to do that. And so you need to keep practicing. I don't know, do a mock-up interview with your friend, with your your partner, I don't know, whoever. Karena itu kayak bener-bener take practice, tapi bottom line is that you need to communicate that I need work permit. Are you gonna sponsor me? Basically have that difficult conversation from the get-go. Jadi kalau misalnya mereka back off, kalian bisa ada waktu untuk cari employer lain. Sebagai pengalaman, aku interview sama 8 potential employer dari aku lulus sampai akhirnya aku dapat kerjaan yang ini. Tapi jadi semuanya itu okay, we can offer you a job, blah blah blah. However, pas aku tanya bisa atau mau nggak sponsor dan aku work permit, semuanya back off kecuali si employer yang sekarang aku kerja bareng ini. So kayak menurut aku itu kayak a very exhausting and frustrating experience, especially after multiple interview that you think you're capable, but you didn't get hired because of work permit. So it's just, oh my God, what else should I do? Tapi at the end of the day, kalau emang jodoh, kalau emang terus berusaha, menurut aku bisa sih, asal dikomunikasiin di awal. Jadi kayak yang aku bilang itu, securing a job in general tuh it's not easy, especially ketika kita international student yang butuh work permit. Jadi kayak emang harus sabar. That's why kayak planning itu tuh penting banget menurut aku. Dan gimana caranya, menurut aku kadang-kadang suka ditanya, gimana sih caranya supaya dapat kerjaan itu. Nah, menurut aku penting banget buat kita stand out from the crowd. Karena if you think about it, if you think from the perspective of an employer, why would I hire this random girl right here in front of me? I'm referring to myself. Why would I hire this random girl in front of me who I don't know, who comes from the other side of the world? Why I have hundreds, multiple applicants from United States that I don't have to think about their work permit. I can just hire them. So it's a really tough situation. So you really need to stand out from the crowd, find values that many people, especially people in the US, do not have. In my case, because we're dealing with this airplane crashes that happened in Indonesia. So I speak the language, I know the culture. And so that's what I, sell to my employer. And then in return, I asked them, okay, but I need work visa, so please sponsor me for my work visa. So that was the deal. But I can ask for that with confidence because I know that this thing I can do it, but not many people can here in the US. So something like that. So find something that you know that your competitor do not have. But at the end of the day, after all, ujung-ujungnya rezeki-rezekian sih. Karena mungkin kayak yang teman-teman tahu, H1B itu pertama pakai lottery, habis setelah lottery pun ada kemungkinan di reject. Jadi it really is a very tense and stressful process. So it really is normal if you're anxious, if you're questioning yourself every day. Is it worth it? Am I gonna get it? Or something like that. So yeah, but at the end of the day we will all end somewhere. So yeah, I think that's all for me. Next, like I said, if you want to ask, I mean, we're gonna have question and answer session at the end of the day, but if you want to connect with me more, these are my social media. Yeah, so thank you.
Alright, thank you banget ya Kak Zaskia for all the insight. Setuju banget tuh kalau orang Indonesia harus kejar semua mimpinya di Amerika karena chance-nya udah dapet sekolah di US susah kan.
Bener banget. Udah sampai ke sini aja, bisa sampai ke sini tuh udah syukur.
Bener. Oke deh. Sekarang ada another speaker namanya yang nggak ada duanya, namanya Kak Hana Tania. Mbak Hana ini currently the assistant project manager at Unimark Construction. She holds a bachelor's degree in architecture and continued her master's of science in construction management, both from University of Washington. Halo Mbak Hana, apa kabar?
Halo, baik-baik. Apa kabar?
Sehat. Mbak Hana lagi di Indonesia atau di Seattle?
Lagi kebetulan di Indonesia buat bikin visanya di Embassy Jakarta.
Sama denger-denger nih, Kak Hana dulu Presiden Permias juga ya? Tahun berapa tuh, Kak?
Wah, tuh kayak 4 tahun yang lalu.
Wah.
Yes juga.
Oke, udah nggak sabar kan dengerin perjalanan Kak Hana dari jejak mahasiswa internasional from UW jadi full-time worker di States. Langsung aja ya Kak Hana, silakan.
Oke, let me share my screen. Oke, pada bisa lihat screen-nya? Oke, just a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Hana Tania. Currently working in construction field. Nggak banyak orang Indo kerja di construction dan nggak banyak juga cewek kerja di construction. So I think it's very, very interesting path that I had, but I'm really happy that I had this kind of opportunity. A little background, I've been in US for about 10 years and I've been working for around 6 years in 4 different companies professionally. So, kalau Kak Zaskia mulainya dari master, for me, I started as a college student, lulus, back then I was only 16 tahun ke US, college dulu di NSCC, and then I go to UW, studying architecture, and then intern and doing architecture interior design di Seattle. I use my OPT. And back then, pas mau OPT selesai, kayak what I did wrong was I didn't let my company know earlier kalau I need work visa gitu. So I talked to my manager about 2 months before, because the due date for H1B application is April. So I let my boss know around January. Pas aku kasih tahu January, mereka bilang let me think about it. Terus I just waited, and that's my mistake because I wasn't following it up. Karena to be honest, back then I was kind of shy. Yeah, I mean orang Indo standarnya biasa lumayan malu gitu kan, compared to Americans, mana mereka lebih frontal gitu. Jadi kayak I already asked, nggak dijawab, jadi I don't follow up gitu. Begitu udah di follow up, it was all mereka follow up-nya tuh mid of April, which the due date for OPT application, I mean for H1B application tuh sudah lewat gitu kan. So it was a missed opportunity, but I decided to go for a master in construction. di UW juga while doing part-time work in the same company using my CPT. And then before I graduated, I was lucky to ended up in a project in Abstract Construction, building a transit station in Northgate and Bellevue, and then doing my OPT and STEM. Back then, that company juga nggak sponsor H1B gitu. But I know one person, mereka baru lagi coba sponsor H1B. But back then, what I thought was cuman mau coba doang gitu kan. I don't even think about getting H1B. Begitu udah mulai akhir-akhirnya mau H1B, mikir-mikir lagi, someone approached to me and offered me a new job in Pajetsan Hospitality, which is like a hotel development group. And the contract pas lagi mau signing, it wasn't only better pay, but also mereka bilang, okay, we're gonna sponsor your H1B right away. Begitu kamu masuk, langsung kita link you up with our lawyer and submit your H1B. So it was really good opportunity. So I took the jump buat pindah ke company itu buat H1B application. And I worked there for around close to 2 years before COVID happened. Semuanya mulai gak stabil because industrinya adalah perhotelan. As you might know, okay, it is a very highly impacted field in US for hotel industry. Jadi karena udah mulai sedikit goyah, and I decided to start applying for a job pas lagi COVID time gitu, pas lagi COVID time. But since I'm under H1B, it limits me to few companies yang they wanted to hire H1B transfer. Jadi kayak I have to be frontal upfront ketika pas lagi interview aja tentang my condition, karena kalau same thing with OPT. In OPT, you need to find a new job within 90 days grace period. But for H1B, I think H1B is shorter. You only have 60 days buat transfer from one firm to another firm. So your H1B visa is actually linked to your company. Jadi kalau pindah company harus hire another lawyer to transfer your paperwork to the new company for your visa. So a little bit, I'm gonna give you a few tips about how to find jobs and stuff like that. How to build a good resume. First, I realized this a lot because at some point I've been in a part of a position di mana I start hiring people too for my company. So this is some tips that I learned from my managers. Okay, what do you need to look, and also my personal experience. So first, make sure your resume have active word. It's not passive. Kalau active tuh berarti I achieved, I was able to do this, I collaborated. So use active word, show your achievement. What achievement have you done? But some of you might ask, oh, I haven't worked, belum ada pengalaman kerja nih, gimana dong? So look at your education history. Selama kamu sekolah, ada gak proyek-proyek yang kamu mungkin kerja di sekolah gitu? Achievement apa yang udah kamu dapat? Misalnya kalau misalnya ada beberapa dari kalian, misalnya engineering studies, terus kalian bikin case studies or something, you figure out something, write your achievement there if you haven't have any jobs gitu. And then put numbers, statistic. People are more interested on statistic. Okay, I manage couple thousand of projects. If you are in, kalau mungkin dari beberapa kalian ada ikut permias atau ikut organisasi, put the numbers. Oh, I worked and collaborated with 20 people to create this kind of events gitu kan. Karena those active word is making your resume memorable. Jadi orang-orang ingat, oh dia pernah bikin ini, oh dia pernah ini gitu. Kalau cuma bilang I work in a team, everyone work in a team, but what is special about that gitu. And then the next thing is keyword. Why do I say keyword? I don't know if some of you have started applying for jobs. Zaman sekarang tuh bukan face-to-face only, but beberapa company tuh kamu harus fill up forms online kayak di website-nya mereka. And to be honest, with my experience applying yang through online, it's very difficult karena mereka bukan manusia lagi yang ngebaca. They use robots to look at your resume and then they just look for keywords. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian apply kerja dan kalian lihat job openingnya saying, oh this company needs someone who know how to code with CSS or something, take that word yang kata-kata keywordnya on your resume, karena that's how the bots will identify whether you are qualified for the jobs or not. So take those keywords, make sure it's on your resume, karena kalau enggak, mereka hanya akan pakai filter to remove the resume yang nggak matching dengan apa job post yang mereka post. Make sure it's relatable. Kalau mereka mencari bidangnya data entry in accounting and you have accounting degree, put the words yang relatable to that and show activities. What kind of activities yang you have done? Kalau kalian udah pernah kerja, that's good. You can put it. Kalau misalnya kalian belum and now masih sekolah, try to find activities. Either you volunteer, ikut organization, or something yang you can say that, okay, I did manage, or oh, I helped this to do their data entry or something. And that's how you gain your kalau belum biasa, it's really hard to land on your first job karena you haven't have any experience. So by those activities yang volunteers, itu bisa ngebantu nge-boost up and show employer that, oh, this person are active, mereka bisa kerja dan we want to hire them. And then the next tips for resume is customize. A lot of people, beberapa kali when I hired people, aku lihat resumenya tuh mungkin itu cuman kayak disebar banyak gitu. Jadi not relatable dan begitu kita lihat ini orang apply buat posisi ini, tapi baru kayak misalnya, dear sir, we would like to apply to, dia lupa change the company name and it was for a different company. Begitu kita lihat, we know that this person is just mass kirim mereka punya resume and didn't even spend time buat modify per the job. So make sure double check, because as me myself, I juga pernah kirim email karena copy paste. I happen to write the wrong company name, sending it to a different company. So double check. And then in American companies, they wanted to be short and concise. So try as much to keep it on a single page. Ini kalau mungkin di Indonesia atau di mana-mana mungkin mereka lebih banyak dari one page, but in US most of people they only have 30 seconds to look at your resume before moving on to another. And I even know from my friend yang kerja di Amazon, how she got hired is they had like this thick of resume di put on the manager's table. Mereka cuman kayak ngeliat 30 seconds pindahin 30 seconds yang mana dia tertarik gitu. So make it single page, concise, and visual. For me, I'm in architecture and construction. Architecture is more design-based. Sometimes making your resume slightly have a pop-up color help gitu. But I don't know if you're working in business, it might be different case. But recently, I know that a lot of kayak di Word aja banyak template yang udah bagus-bagus that you can use. Make sure it's visually attractive, clean, and memorable. And one of the person that hired me also said, oh, I hired you because your resume, it's benar-benar kayak mencolok. My resume was all orange color, dark orange, and when I see in a stack, kayak mereka buka stack gitu, mostly kan it's black. Jadi kayak mine was popping up to them gitu. And last, BU. What I mean by BU is not just put your job experience, but then Americans or people in the United States tend to have a different work-life balance gitu. So you need to put what you like, what adventure, or you could say, oh, I'm a foodie, I like to eat a lot of food, or I like to do hiking or something like that. So that is just a little bit of information to show that you're a human and not just a robot who's working. I hope those tips help you for writing your resume. And the next part that I would like to share is how I got my job. So as you might know, I've been moving to a couple of jobs professionally. And in my first job, I got it, I was volunteering. And then I talked to one of the person. Jadi itu my OPT card udah keluar, but I haven't got any jobs. I applied to hundreds of jobs. I haven't got anything di reply back. So in the meanwhile, I volunteered in architecture organization, and I believe most field itu ada organizationnya gitu, kayak engineering ada, interior design ada. Just try to find what kind of organization is around. So I was volunteering there, and then I talked to one of the person yang di organizationnya, and I asked him, oh, how do you find your job? And dia bilang, oh, I got my job karena aku lihat job in a job board in the organization website gitu. So I decided to put my resume there and got a phone call and I got the job right away. And it might be different with your guys' cases, but this is one of the means and methods that that you guys can browse and hopefully you guys can find it through there. My second job, I got it during a project site visit with school. So lagi pergi ke Northgate Transit Station, and then over there I talked to the manager, ngobrol-ngobrol biasa gitu, and then contact to the manager. Terus one day the company, few weeks later, the company open a company session di UDAP gitu. So UDAP construction is pretty good. Mereka once a week suka panggil company, and then you can sign up for interviews. Jadi I sign up for interviews. When I interview, I talk to them, kayak, oh I pernah loh ke site you and happen to know this guy, and then mereka jadi interested, and from there on I got hired. So if you guys go on site visit, just take notes who's the manager name or try to talk to them. Who knows, that could be a way you can find your next job. The third part is headhunters. So because I had a couple experience and I updated my LinkedIn, so my LinkedIn is always updated. The headhunters, a lot of headhunters cari-cari their LinkedIn and approach you. But just be very careful which one you respond to and do a lot of research. So from headhunters, I landed to my job for typically a smaller company would hire another headhunters company to find employee because kalau misalnya Amazon atau apa, a lot of people kayak gampang banyak mau apply ke mereka, tapi kalau smaller medium company they find it difficult to find kayak employee, jadi mereka pay headhunters. So headhunters biasanya ya carinya lewat LinkedIn. So that's why keep your LinkedIn updated. And last, I got it through LinkedIn job board. LinkedIn lately LinkedIn juga post a lot of jobs kayak dari company-company yang looking for employee, mereka post, and I applied to there and I got my job through that. But that's the 4 methods I got my job, and these are the way a lot of my friends, oops, I still got templates there, oops, how others got their job. They, a lot of them go through work agency, mereka called, I think there's a couple, I forgot the name, but if you want to know what's the work agency in Seattle, send me an email. Not on this site, the really great site, that was just a template, forget to delete it, I'm sorry. But go through work agency, friends connection, you know, a lot of people, kalau kalian punya teman yang kerja, it's actually a good way to find another job karena employer want to hire, if employer typically want to hire another employee through connection karena mereka tahu kalau employee ini bagus pasti temennya mereka akan rekomend yang bagus. And I know a lot of people even before I recommend a couple people buat another job. So make friends with people ataupun yang orang-orang udah kerja. And then there's a few other methods kayak online, it's called Indeed. Or surprisingly, I got job offer before through Craigslist. So who knows, you know? But typically, I don't expect for bigger firm to post on Craigslist. Typically, Craigslist itu bakal kerja yang ke individual or like a smaller 5 to 10 companies yang really struggling and need people like right away. Kalau Craigslist tuh benar-benar kayak I need it next week gitu. So that's a good way to find job. What to prepare for H1B or others. So if you are in STEM majors, make sure your company is E-Verify karena nggak semua orang itu E-Verify, semua company itu E-Verify. And you can search it online, Google it, just type E-Verification company. And then company yang misalnya kalian mau apply, kalian Google dulu mereka E-Verify atau enggak. Karena kalau nggak ada, even though you got OPT and STEM majors, kalian nggak bisa extend buat ke tahun kedua dan ketiga. And then another thing that you need to put on your calendar, H1B application due date is April. Jadi begitu mereka buka, April 1, itu biasanya lawyers semua masukin data-data yang orang-orang udah siapin. Jadi due date April bukan berarti kalian baru siapinnya tuh April. It means that sebelum akhir Maret, data kalian harus sudah lengkap dan udah di tangan lawyer. Dan nanti lawyernya yang akan masukin ke portal untuk diproses. So I would suggest biasa mulai tuh last time for me was like January. kumpulin data, karena data yang mereka butuh banyak banget. Itu kayak mereka butuh tuh I think segepok gini, ada I-20, I-79, was it I-94, terus kalian punya transcript, resume, and a lot of other documents. So make sure it's complete before you send it to the lawyer. Nanti lawyer bakal check, and then they gonna send it to H1B portal gitu. So this is very important. Discuss it with your employer. Kayak, okay, I need this job. But some of you might be kayak, aduh susah banget yang mau cari ini. Maybe you could pertama what I experienced before ya, pas pertama kerja, I didn't even say that I need H1B because I still have open end kayak, okay, I have 3 years buat STEM, jadi ya udah kalau mereka nggak mau sponsor nggak apa-apa gitu. But then when it's getting close, then you need to start bringing up the issue with your employer. But if you only have 1 year, then you need to ask early for the sponsorship. Kalau kalian lagi sekolah nih, if you're still at universities, my tips for you, this is what I figure out pas I mulai kerjain aplikasi, pick classes yang relatable with the future jobs that you're applying. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian mau kerja software engineers yang membutuhkan 5 different software skills, ambil aja kelasnya, all those 5 skills. Or try as much yang, jadi kalau kalian ambil kelas kalian tuh bukan, kan kadang banyak orang yang suka ngambil kelas yang, oh this is going to boost my GPA, gitu kan. Tapi make sure that kalian jangan cuma ambil kelas dance and jazz or something not related to your school, to your job, karena pas kalian tulis H1B application, this is for my field construction, my firm is not a big firm, jadi how to make your application relatable is gimana kamu present yourself to the government, kayak okay, mereka nggak bisa hire orang lain lagi di Amerika karena I have these skills yang I learned through the schools, through my education. And I was grateful pas aku sekolah, I took construction yang benar-benar very detailed. Jadi ketika aku apply, there is a leadership management, there is a lot of related to construction yang make me bisa relatable to my job gitu kan. And my last recommendation, kalau kalian masih sekolah atau kalian udah kerja, build network relationship di mana kalian bisa minta recommendation letter atau referral. So for me back then pas aku apply my H1B first time, my company not a big company. I am the second person yang mereka sponsor H1B. Jadi itu very risky and kerjaan aku tuh buat developer bukan buat construction while my major is in construction. And because of that mereka butuh banyak banget kayak supporting documents kenapa they need to hire me gitu kan. And I was lucky, mereka tanya, can you ask for recommendation letter? And in UW, I was close with the dean. Jadi the one that write my recommendation letter is the dean of the school. But for you guys, maybe you can find a good professors or someone yang bisa kasih kalian support kalau kenapa kalian harus di-hire gitu. So have those build network, keep in contact with your professor atau siapapun, misalnya your co-workers. Jadi in the future you can ask their help buat recommendation letter. What to know about your H1B application? Keep all your documents organized. Okay, this is very important karena ketika kalian mau apply H1B, mereka bakal minta semua history I-20 kalian. Jadi kalau sekarang awal-awal mungkin kan baru punya satu I-20, but in my case, I think I have like around 7 or 8 old I-20s karena dari college, nanti OPT, STEM, CPT, they all have different kind of I-20. So keep those in hand, make copies, jangan sampai hilang. Karena kalau sampai hilang itu tuh susah banget buat kalian kumpulin data-data. And then transcript, have it in handy too. Terus, go back one slide. Prepare for the worst. H1B visa itu not just based on qualification, but it's also a draw. Jadi it also depends on your luck. Karena walaupun segimanapun kalian mau prepare, I know a lot of my friends yang kerja di Amazon, di Microsoft, and a couple bigger firms yang you thought oh bisa dapet gitu. Ternyata nggak semudah itu karena namanya withdrawal. Ya tergantung kalian hokinya dapet atau enggak. So prepare for the worst and just know that you tried your best gitu. And then another things that you might want to know, kalau kalian punya master, there's extra 20,000 slots per year per last year. Jadi it actually add up the opportunity for you to get H1B. But in general, seluruh Amerika for 1 year there's 65,000 H1B cap for the whole United States. This is based on last year data. Jadi maybe if you guys have masters, that is a good thing. But if not, maybe if you didn't get the first shot, maybe you can think about getting a master's, and that might actually have to have another year for you to apply. So another thing to know if you are planning to take H1B and apply, timing is important karena ketika kalian H1B in process, kalian nggak bisa keluar Amerika, so you will have to stay in the country for the whole entire process gitu. Some application takes 6 months. My application, I got my application di return because they have more questions. They require more inquiry and more supporting documents why they need to hire me. Jadi instead of 6 months, mine ended up for 1 year. And then another part, this is recently being placed, H1B has salary bracket. Jadi per industry ada minimum salary yang you need to earn in order for you to qualify for H1B. So make sure double check on that. And maybe when you apply for a job and you got a job, and they are going to sponsor H1B, make sure the salary itu tuh at least ngehit the bracket minimum that they need for qualification. And a lot of people mungkin mikir, oh kan applying for H1B is not cheap. They need to hire lawyers, and I think it costs about 5,000 kalau nggak salah. And a lot of people kayak yaudahlah bayar out of pocket aja, ngomong ke my company and I pay for it. This is illegal. Kalian nggak boleh ngelakuin ini. And if the company wanna do that, that is very fishy. Karena kalau kalian ketangkep, that's not going to be a good deal that you wanna deal with gitu. My advice to you kalau kalian yang lagi pada cari mulai kerja ataupun udah kerja mau cari company yang H1B, my tips for you, every 10 times you try, you will at least get one. So for my case, I applied about 100 jobs for my first job and ended with 12 interviews, which lead me to 2 job offers. I don't know what's your struggle right now. Mungkin kalian juga lagi apply. Yeah, don't give up. Make sure always try. And one tip, when you apply for a job, take notes maybe in Excel sheet or anything. Karena when you apply to so many jobs, you don't even know who you applied, what kind of jobs you applied. Begitu mereka respond, mereka bilang, okay, we wanna interview with you. Begitu mereka bilang interview, and sometimes mereka punya email tuh very basic. Jadi mereka cuma bilang kita mau interview, tapi you don't even remember what kind of position you apply to gitu. So that you don't wanna like come to interview. I actually did it. Okay, I come to interview, I don't even know position apa yang I apply and what kind of skills they need. So I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Gitu kan. Jadi make sure just take notes, remember it gitu. Be proactive and ask. Orang Indo tuh paling kita kan kalau di SD di zaman Indo kalau kita berisik dimarahin kan. Sedangkan orang Amerika tuh di kelas tuh angkat tangan mulu ngomong kayak oke gitu. So this is like what I learned. As Indonesian, kayak be proaktif. Kalian harus tanya, harus follow up. Jangan malu-malu gitu. Karena kalau enggak, it's very hard. It's very di depan sana tuh competition is very ini. Kalau kalian habis interview, follow up always. Email back kayak, hey, I just interviewed you yesterday. How was it? What is the next update? And be proactive. Karena kalau kalian abis interview terus kalian diem doang, kadang mereka lupa juga because they are busy and that's why they are hiring. Kalau kalian nggak follow up ya mereka lupa. And last, polish your resume. Kalau misalnya resume kalian masih kosong, di zaman sekarang is very easy. You can do to Coursera or a lot of online portal di mana kalian bisa add more skills yang relatable to the jobs that they are hiring. A lot of my friends maybe they're in business majors tapi mereka belajar data just through online and they got a job in data. So there's nothing impossible. To find a job means you have to be very creative. What the world needs right now, cari skills apa yang dibutuhin. If you learn that skills, then company will hire you. But if you just stay still, ya kalian nggak menjadi orang yang different gitu dari orang-orang lain, dan company doesn't want to hire someone yang doesn't add any value to their company. So add more skills during this time and be different. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free after this. And okay, thanks.
All right, thank you banget ya Kak Hana for all the insight baru tahu nih kalau Craigslist juga bisa buat nyari kerja juga ya Kak.
Bisa. And actually I got interview a couple through Craigslist, ya tapi company-nya kecil banget gitu.
Oke deh, thank you ya Kak. Nah, pasti kalian semua udah banyak pertanyaan kan? Tapi tunggu dulu ya, karena kita ada questions from another attendees yang udah dikirim dari kemarin lewat Google Forms. So first question is from Eunice Prasojo from Ohio University. How did you find workplaces that are willing to hire those that need a work visa?
I think I can answer to that. Kadang nggak bisa langsung frontal ngomong di depan juga sih. You need to play, tahu situasinya juga gitu. Karena ya kalau misalnya kalian punya 2 tahun, you need to know when to ask. Karena especially during this time, if it's your first job, it's kind of hard. Karena biasa orang kayak, aduh repot banget gitu, nggak mau apply, nggak mau ini. Tapi at the same time, ada juga yang big firms kayak Deloitte, Amazon, atau apa, mereka biasanya mau hire gitu. But a lot of bigger firms biasa need a higher level yang dimana mereka mau sponsor for your H-1B.
And then,
sorry, aku mau nambahin dikit aja. Kalau dari aku sih, how I know that company is willing to sponsor me for my work visa is I would look at their background. Jadi aku kepoin, aku research tentang company itu. Biasanya kan dia ada profil tentang employee-nya. Nah, lihat dari situ, ada nggak employee-nya yang kayak dari luar United States, atau ada nggak yang employee-nya kayak misalnya dihukum. LLM itu adalah gelar untuk international students. Jadi kalau ada law firm yang mention LLM, wah berarti kemungkinan besar company ini sponsor work visa. Jadi mungkin bisa di-apply ke bidang-bidang lain, lihat employee di situ ada nggak yang dari luar United States asalnya. Mungkin itu bisa jadi indikasi, oh company ini hire orang dan mau sponsor work visa. Kayak gitu.
Okay. And then how do you guys approach the companies buat yang interest in working there?
Kalau aku sih itu research penting banget sih. Aku research / kepoin / stalk company potential employer. Jadi aku lihat apa sih yang mereka butuh. Nah dari situ aku approach sesuai apa yang mereka butuh. Jadi kayak mereka ada demand-nya, nah kita bisa supply sama apa yang mereka demand kayak gitu.
Kalau Hana?
Sorry, question tadi gimana?
Questionnya, how did you approach the company yang interest you for working there? Jadi approach ke company-nya gimana awalnya?
Awal-awalnya biasa either ada job opportunity yang di-post, atau kalau enggak ya misalnya kalian Google ada company yang kalian tertarik nih, kalian tertarik company-nya apa. Sometimes they have like contact information di bawah, okay, if you want to find job, contact to this ini. Some of them will reply you back and jawab, tapi beberapa cuma masuk ke mereka punya contact box doang kan. So another methods yang a couple of my friend actually use, and I haven't tried this, cuman my friend had told me about this type. It's go through LinkedIn. Cari di LinkedIn company name-nya apa yang kalian mau kerja. Cari company name, cari either their managers atau their HR people. Karena a couple of my friends kayak reach out, kayak ngobrol, terus habis itu ya sometimes you could even ask, can I ask for a coffee, or over a coffee mau nanya kayak tentang your company, I'm interested in your company, I want to learn more, atau you can be very straightforward, I'm looking for a job, I'm interested in your company, can I have a coffee with you just to learn about the industry right now. And a lot of people out there yang lebih senior, they tend to have, kalau orang Amerika tuh gimana ya, they have to have a tendency, they wanted to help the new generation. Jadi most of them, if you ask, can I ask for coffee, they would mostly say yes. So just try, kadang misalnya kalian nggak dapat kerjaan sama dia, but maybe they have friends yang cari employees, so you never know. You can try through that.
Okay deh. And then did you guys do an internship first before applying to the company as a full-time worker?
internship, yes, but not at the same organization, not at the same firm.
In case, pas I college and uni, I never thought about doing internship because I don't even know gitu kan. Jadi kayak ya udah sekolah aja karena dulu my parents bilang udah kamu fokus dulu sekolah nggak usah ini deh. I only work at school kayak ya kerja di lab or something gitu kan. So I don't have really kayak experience yang di kerjaan di dunia betul karena kayak kerjaan di sekolah it's so different dari kerjaan kamu benar-benar pas kamu terjun ke dunia kerja gitu. I would say I don't have any internship, cuman ya kalau kalian nggak pernah, kalau kalian in similar shoe like me nggak internship dulu, it's okay, you can still find a job. And like me, kayak I just do volunteer gitu. Karena I know by the time I udah baru mulai cari kerja, I know it's too late because I didn't get internship. And ya udah saat itu what I can do is volunteer. So I volunteer in exchange for internship.
Okay, there. And then we have another questions from Vito Alexander from University of Washington. Dia nanya, he's trying to get a 1-year postgraduate OPD for my field and then apply for H-1B visa sponsorships afterwards. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mungkin untuk Alexander, Vito Alexander, mungkin his situation is more similar like mine karena cuma 1 tahun OPT-nya compared to Tania di field STEM kan bisa 3 tahun ya Tan ya?
Iya, bisa 3 tahun.
3 tahun. So kayak yes, it is very important to communicate that upfront, either pas interview atau pas di offer jobnya, karena there is no more time to talk about it. Karena yang tadi Tania bilang, Tania juga sempat touch base di presentasinya kalau penting banget buat ngomongin itu. So kayak my advice is to communicate that upfront.
Okay, and then we got another question from Meta Clarissa from Bentley University. In this currently challenging economy, a lot of companies have become more selective with whom they hire. And then most importantly, excluding the big firms, most US companies have high preference not to hire those who need a work visa. How to approach this situation to land a secure job? Thank you.
I think in this case, not every firm yang have this kind of thought. Some firm when they need someone, ketika mereka benar-benar butuhin orang, mereka will hire gimana pun gitu. Karena if they see you qualified, they will hire you no matter if they need to do a work visa or not. Karena typically, to be honest, kayak when you apply for jobs, kadang ada initial benefit gitu kayak I know kayak Amazon they pay kayak upfront kayak bonus signing bonus they call it, but kalau in my case waktu aku pindah kerjaan instead of asking for signing bonus I asked them, hey I need H-1B transfer and this is something that is non-negotiable and I need you to sponsor me, and I actually got my job during COVID time, so it doesn't really matter COVID or not. Because some company is thriving through COVID and some might not gitu. Jadi just try to find the jobs yang company yang emang lagi growing even though it's COVID or not. And I just believe kayak if you try and try to find, a lot of my friends yang during COVID time malah dapet job karena kemarin kan mereka sempat lay off a lot of people pas awal-awal. Ketika mereka lay off, nah sekarang udah mulai recover, they have a lot of job openings. Jadi kayak it's also about timing, so don't give up, coba aja terus apply sekarang.
Okay, and then last question from Muhammad Bagas Amirul Haq dari Gajah Mada University. He asked about the specific law career to Kak Zaskia Putri, and then how difficult is the US bar exam from the perspective of Indonesian legal scholar?
Iya, sorry ya tadi sebelumnya internetnya putus.
No worries, Kak.
Yeah, so it is difficult data wise. Jadi persentase wise itu tuh dari angkatan aku summer 2019 sekitar untuk Washington State Bar sekitar 50 something 57 atau 59 yang ikut khusus international student, yang lulus itu cuma 9 orang. Jadi it's like like 10% something, So kayak it's very difficult, it's very intense, but it is not rocket science. It's something that you can definitely study for, but you need to prepare, and it's not just the study itself, but also the mental and the funding. Karena kayak to take the bar exam, you have to pay for the module, for the registration, and then it's very exhausting process. So you need to be prepared for that.
Okay, and then do we need to get a law bachelor's degree or master's degree from the US university to take the exam?
If you are from Indonesia, yes, you have to have a law degree from the United States, from ABA Law School, American Bar Association Certified Law School. Karena kan ada banyak banget law school di US, nah itu harus yang ABA certified. Itu untuk yang lulusan dari Indonesia. Kenapa? Karena negara kita bukan negara common law, jadi mereka harus tahu kalau kita tuh udah ngerti tentang common law, karena kita civil law kan. Tapi kalau untuk mereka yang lulusan dari negara common law itu nggak wajib punya sarjana dari Amerika, tapi untuk kasus kita dari Indonesia kita harus punya sarjana dari Amerika, seperti itu.
Oke deh. Okay, so after questions dari Google Docs ya udah selesai, I'll open the floor now for question and ask for you guys. Kalau ada yang mau nanya boleh pencet tombol raise hand aja langsung, and I'll call out your name satu-satu biar nggak pada overlap. Oke, yang Iki ya.
Right, thanks. Am I audible?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can hear you.
So konteksku tuh sekarang aku lagi di domestic company as a software engineer. Aku nggak tahu apakah ini pertanyaan yang umum banget. So is it better kalau misalnya aku ngambil master dulu in US, baru aku apply for US companies, atau emang aku bisa purely build my industrial experience and go all the way buat ke US-nya? That's the first question. Sama second question ini spesifik untuk Kahana. Tadi tuh aku kurang jelas maksudnya dengan ada extra 20,000 slots for master, itu kayak gimana ya? Itu aja sih, 2 pertanyaan kok.
Oke, buat pertanyaan yang pertama, tadi questionnya gimana? Coba.
Oke, questionnya ya, jadi is it better kalau misalnya aku ngambil master di sana dulu, atau emang sebenarnya masih feasible juga kalau aku build my industrial experience aja, jadi pas ke sana tuh aku emang purely ngasih lihat resumeku, aku udah kerja di company ini, tapi I don't have master degree di sana. Jadi kayak pertanyaanku, which one is easier sih sebenarnya? Apakah harus master dulu, atau sebenarnya bisa-bisa juga kok kalau misalnya kerja aja gitu?
And this is for software engineering, right?
Ya, betul Kak.
Okay, I think software engineering is a little bit different field karena kayak banyak dibutuhin di US. Cuman ya kalau kekurangannya kalau nggak di Amerika sekarang, mereka kadang kurang bisa di level out gitu dengan experience. You can try applying right now. I know di Seattle banyak banget software engineers yang langsung datang dengan visa kerja, but a lot of them that I know is mostly like orang-orang dari India yang ada di Amazon gitu, but Indonesian I haven't heard anything like that. Maybe there is, but you can try karena kan Amazon or other big firms yang di software open up through their online portal, so you can try that. Cuman kalau misalnya apply master, it gives you a chance to be here di US dan mereka ngelihat pernah sekolah di US gitu, so that actually give you a better opportunity karena mereka lihat pernah di US and it's more qualification in terms of education, right? Dan buat yang slots 20.000, jadi misalnya the whole entire year mereka terima 65.000, that can be anyone, bisa undergrad, postgrad, PhD, tapi extra 20,000 it means the whole total will be 85,000 and 20,000 specifically itu cuma buat postgrad, jadi buat yang nge-hold master and PhD.
Right, thank you, that's pretty clear.
Okay, thanks.
Iki, aku mau nambahin sedikit. Jadi untuk masalah which one is a better idea, whether to come here to do master or try to applying for job even from out of United States. So aku punya teman orang Indonesia, dia he and his wife they came here dengan work permit. Jadi mereka apply itu dari out of the country. Dia kerja di Microsoft dan aku nggak tahu ya posisi pastinya apa, tapi I would assume something to do with software engineering. So that there's a case like that. Dan mereka sekarang juga udah menetap di sini, so kayak it's not something impossible, but I believe kayak before he came here dia udah build their own his own credential dulu gitu, karena setahu aku dia sebelumnya kerja di Singapura or something, tapi dia lulusan Indonesia seperti itu. So it's something very not very, but it's something doable if you want, but you know, I just don't have personal experience about it. I know that my friend has something like that. Terus tadi mungkin nambahin dikit Tania yang masalah 20,000 cap itu untuk master's degree sama pokoknya postgraduate degree yang di-obtain di US ya. Jadi kayak degree-nya itu harus didapetin di US kayak gitu. Okay. Jadi nggak bisa master's degree tapi lulusan negara lain gitu.
Ya, oke. Makasih Kak.
Ya.
Okay, any other questions? Ada lagi yang mau nanya nih, nggak guys?
Rai Setio Putri kayaknya angkat tangan deh.
Ya, oke, Rai bisa ngomong.
Oke, aku mau tanya buat Kak Hana. It's not a visa-related question, but I'm just curious about how did you get close with the dean, and are they actually approachable?
I think for my case, my dean itu dia punya my advisor in school. So jadi kalau di master, I have to do a final paper kayak semacam thesis, and I happen kayak boleh pilih advisor. I was chosen a different advisor, tapi my advisor somehow didn't qualify. Terus tiba-tiba my case dia pindahin ke dean, jadi my advisor jadinya the school dean gitu. So I work out with him with my final project, and then ya udah kayak gitu doang. But I keep a good contact with him. I even ask pas aku lagi kayak consult buat my project, I even ask, oh how do I find a job and stuff gitu kan. So I built a good relation with him. By the time pas I udah kerja 2 years later, I need H1B. I contacted him back and asked, hey, would you be open buat tulis recommendation letter? And he said, okay, I'll do it for you. But it's not just dean, but in the past, I also had like my advisor. Terus ada beberapa my school punya professor yang actually help me to write my recommendation letter pas I apply for jobs. Karena pas nanti kamu apply for jobs, kadang mereka minta contact number di mana mereka akan telepon either your previous employer atau your number your recommended referral gitu.
Okay, thank you Kak.
Oke deh. Ada mau nanya lagi nggak guys? Kayaknya kalau udah pada nggak nanya lagi, kita mungkin boleh screenshot dulu ya foto buat di-post di Premiere Seattle ya. Jadi if you guys mau buka videonya, bisa dibuka sekarang. Oke. Kayaknya Kania yang mau screenshot ya.
Yes.
Oke. Bentar ya. Sorry. Boleh sih. Bentar ya. Oke. Coba dulu pada cantik, ganteng semuanya. Ya, bakal ada beberapa sih, soalnya banyak screen-nya ya. Bentar ya, tunggu dulu. Oke. Aku bakal take 3 screenshot ya. Oke. 1, 2, 3. Oke. Lagi 1, 2, 3. Lagi 1, 2, 3. Oke. Oh, terakhir. Baca. Oke. 1, 2. Oke. Makasih semua. Ya, Enrico, any last words from you?
Oke, thank you banget ya Kak Zaskia dan Kak Hana for giving the time today to share your knowledge and your experiences with us. Jadi pelajaran banget nih buat kita semua, especially for yang di sekolah di US and then mau yang cari kerja. And thank you juga buat yang nonton, udah mau hadir ke kita. Mudah-mudahan informasinya bisa berguna untuk kalian semua. And don't forget to post our event on the Instagram and tag Premia Seattle. We'll see you guys on our next event.
Terima kasih. Bye.
Kak Zaskia, thank you.
Thank you.
Kami.
Ya, semuanya bye-bye.
Dah. Thank you, Enrico. Great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kania.
Enrico. Thanks, Kania.
Thank you, Hana. Thank you, Kak Zaskia.
Yay, that was great. Jago lo, Enrico, lo kayaknya udah ini deh. Emang pure talent.
Jol, ngapain Jol?
Okay. Yay. Angel, you're still here, right?
Yeah.
Kenapa bendera lu Jerman ya, Jol?
Beneran Niko anjir.
Terus kenapa Jerman?
Ya udah nanti Mar bikinin ya. Nanti gue kirim ininya ke lo ya.
Foto ini ya.
Okay. Thank you guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Enrico.
You.